So a solicitor is the kind of lawyer who works in a law firm, works for people directly who, come through the door or need services, as opposed to a barrister. And a barrister does court work primarily and is usually just a subcontractor to a solicitor. So yeah, I'm a solicitor. The kind of law that I've done has been the kind of law that the community and private individuals need. So I don't act for big business. I act for mums and dads, property transactions, separations, estate planning, deceased estates, little disputes, small business stuff, that sort of thing. And I've run my own firm called TBA Law for about 8 years now as well in central Victoria. As a solicitor, I did law as many young people do because they think that you can make a difference and you can help people. And yes, there is an element of that. Yes, you take some of the stress off people by doing the things they can't do for themselves. But I've been, I suppose, I think that things can be done better. I think that I don't think that the system often works for people, for the small people. I think that it is true that you need money to actually have justice, and it shouldn't be that way. There are lots and lots of biases in the legal industry, particularly against women and against minority groups. And that is why I've decided this year, when COVID hit, because what other time is there to do it, is to start Legally Wise Women, because I think that I need to drive some change and empower women when they have a legal issue to actually know how to engage the legal system, to know when and how to find the right person, but also to access services that they might have for free to do a whole lot themselves as well. Because I think now's the time to be taking responsibility for our own matters rather than just handing things over to someone else and letting someone else basically earn a whole lot of money out of you when it's your life.
And that brings me to a point where we need to take control of our own situation first. And what you're saying is that you want to educate those who need the legal system to understand how it works, where to go to find the right person, how to hire the person that is appropriate for what you need, but also to be a part of whatever's going on so that they can help lead and make sure that what's happening is happening in the right way for them. And you said something a minute ago, which was, I'm thinking, oh, this is contentious. And I like this because you're saying, the legal system makes the money, but the legal system doesn't support people or women, particularly in lots of areas. And what you want to do after having the experience that you've had over the years and running your own firm and then starting up Legally Wise for Women is to educate them, to get them to understand that they can do a lot of this stuff. They can get the advice they need. They can find someone that they can trust. Yes, they still have to pay money, but probably won't cost them as much. But also they're taking control of a situation that seems to be out of control a lot of the time for people. And you leave it up to the legal system to do things for you, and it fails you often.
So well said. You've just summarised it so well.
But it's so true, and I see it happen, and I see it happen often with women that the system falls down for, and I can give several examples of that, where the system's fallen down and not done the right thing by the mother in certain situations. And so you're coming in to take something that women are fighting for but don't know how to do it, aren't in the right headspace because of the emotions that they're actually dealing with, don't know what questions to ask, who to trust, who's going to do the right thing by them and fight for them when they need to be fought for.
Yes.
So you started this business in COVID, which is quite interesting. You've written several books which you sent me, and thank you very much. They're brilliant. But it's that education side that you want to get across to women, and how they can support themselves to be in control.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not in control of everything, but there are certain aspects of our life that we can be in control of. So, Jacqui, talk about Legally Wise Women and what it's going to do for those people who need your services, and the education process that you're going to have for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said the word before, and sometimes it's overused with empowerment, but that's essentially what it is. There's a lot of people talking about empowering women through financial literacy, but I think that people can have money but still be taken advantage of and lose all that and not be very empowered. Whereas, you know, knowledge is power. And so teaching people the way to access and look after their rights and their obligations is important. You know, if life is a game, then solicitors know the rules of the game. You need to also have an understanding of that too, to be able to navigate your way through these things. So there are going to be a lot of elements to Legally Wise Women. I've built some elements. There's a lot more to come. So far, there's over 100 short videos on various topics. So just like getting information into people's hands. There's a community platform where all of that lives. I've created the first course, which is how to find and hire the right lawyer. And ultimately, there's also going to be a course around how to negotiate like a pro. There's going to be templates and videos on how to use templates in there as well, both for, you know, putting together your own little agreement. Maybe it's a loan between friends or family. Maybe it's doing your own parenting plan with your ex, or maybe it's someone in small business who needs a confidentiality agreement or a privacy statement or something like that. So those will be in there. There will be fortnightly Q&As with me for people who are on a higher level of the community, ultimately. So there's a whole lot of things that I've still got to develop. And another section that I'm developing, which will be really crucial as well, is a section where I'm going to have a whole lot of other resources for people to see what's available for them to be able to resolve things for themselves for free. There are, again, because of the year of 2020 that we've had, a whole lot of tech solutions that are starting to come out. So it's another way of showing people when is this appropriate for me? How do I use it? And give them a bit of a preview before they go and do something that might not be right for them at all.
Yeah. And you're looking at and saying, educating them in how to find the right lawyer. But how do lawyers charge in the first place? What is it that they do? How do they charge? And I know you can find a lawyer that can do things a little bit cheaper than others. And if you go into big law firms, they charge like wounded bulls. But, you know, how do they charge, and what's the precedent for that?
Yeah, so I mean, if you go all the way back to why the profession started, you know, people used to petition directly to a king, and then there became more and more laws, and it was too difficult for someone to go direct to the king themselves. And then the king became a judge or a magistrate, and then there became professional people that would petition for them. And then it just snowballed. So yes, the law there's the private element of the business of law. There are many aspects where there are community legal services, legal aid covers some areas of the law, and there are lawyers who do some pro bono work. There are then the lawyers who do no win, no fee work, and those sort of lawyers generally, they take on matters that they think they're going to win, because why would you risk the work anyway? But those sort of matters are also usually where there's a big company or an insurer on the other side, so that they know there's someone with money to pay as well. And then you've got the private sector, which are running businesses. Since about the 1970s or 80s, most lawyers have done an hourly sort of charging rate, and that's sort of become the industry norm. But there are some shifts away from that, because that has created some of these horrendous legal fees that you see, potentially the gouging as well. Because if you think about it, a lawyer is supposed to help someone resolve something efficiently. But if it's in their interest that it goes a long time because it generates more money for them, you can see that there can be a direct conflict of interest there. Yeah. So we're trying to, the whole industry is really trying to get lawyers to charge differently. And that's certainly what I'm helping people understand as well. There are matters where you can ask for a fixed fee, or you find lawyers who provide a fixed fee quote, and then the lawyer, they bear the risk because they've said, well, this is what the quote's going to be. If it's more complex than they originally thought, well, that's their risk for not having quoted properly. But if it goes well, that's also their benefit. So the risk then moves to the lawyer instead of the consumer, which is the way it should be. And this, again, is giving more power to consumers to be able to find a lawyer that charges the way you want to charge. You don't just have to go to the first person and accept the way they're going to charge. Just like any other service, you know, I want to remove some of this prestige and fear that people have around lawyers, and you know, you would get multiple quotes from builders or plumbers or whatever. You're going to get multiple quotes from lawyers as well, and work out the different way that's going to suit you too.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? You also say there's a traditional or an alternative, and that's what you were saying there. And looking at getting the support that you need, and you know, you might approach a lawyer and ask the questions, and they can say yes, they can do it, and in the background, you know, sometimes when you're in business and someone asks you to do something, you say yes, and then you go and work it out in the background how you're going to do it. That's not how the legal system works, because they need to know up front how it's going to work before they even start. So how do you know as a consumer, when you approach a lawyer and say, this is what I need, how do you actually know that they can do the work?
There's such a great question.
Yeah, there's research that we can do, but there's still that question of doubt.
Yeah, there is.
So how do you do that? How do you find out?
Yeah, and I guess if you don't even know where to start, you're not going to be able to do the research effectively. That's right. So the law is so big these days that you don't want to go to a lawyer that says that they can do 15 different things on their website, because it means that they can't do any of those things very well. They're spread across a lot of things. They're not really keeping up to date with everything that they need to keep up with. So a lawyer can potentially do 3 or 4 areas fairly well, and often one really well. So firstly, there is a system of accreditation as well. So every state in Australia has a legal body where we all get registered, and you can search on there for accredited specialists. So they are the people who've gone the extra step to get really deep dive into a particular area. So if you want to make sure that it's someone who really, really, really knows the area, you find an accredited specialist. So that's a good start. But the other thing you're talking about as well is skill set versus skill level.
Yes.
As I say to people, when you do your research on a lawyer, you're going to look at their website. They're going to have a list of services. Then try and have a look at their specific bio to see what they actually do. Then have a look at them on LinkedIn. Have a look to see what else they're writing about and doing. There can be a lot of lawyers who put up on their websites that they have this long skill set, but it doesn't mean that they have a very high skill level in any of those things, which is sort of what I was saying before. It's like a jack of all trades. Yeah, you want someone who can demonstrate that they do a lot of this kind of work. And when you first go to ask a lawyer, you know, can you do this? You can always ask, well, you know, how often does this come up for you, and are you dealing with this sort of matter? What sort of percentage of your workload is this sort of matter? You can ask those questions.
Yeah, and it's kind of like interviewing someone for a job, isn't it? Because you have the right to ask those questions. But I think as consumers, we go in with a different expectation, thinking that they're just going to solve the problem. You don't need to do the consult of asking them, well, if you've done this, you know, tell me how successful you were at it. How many times have you done what my situation is, and what success rate have you got? And as you say, they have a skill set, but what's their skill level? And how competent are they to be working in that area that you need them to be working. These, I say, if lawyers can see the conversation that we're having right now, would think this is quite contentious. But I think, the legal system needs a big shake-up.
Yeah.
Because I can see in a lot of people that I speak to that need the legal system are not getting the results that they need and really do need, and are walking away from there not dissatisfied but emotionally distraught and upset, paid a lot of fees, and the result that they've got is not the result that was supposed to happen. And when I say supposed to happen, it's not that you take the sides. It's the right thing to do by that client, lawfully and responsibly.
Yeah. And that can be a hard thing as well, because I think that, again, it comes down to choosing the right lawyer, because you need someone who's going to set expectations well as well, and actually be really clear about the different processes, what the options are, your likelihood of success in various areas. But you also talked before about someone's emotional state. Lawyers, just like doctors, some don't have good bedside manners, yeah? So they don't take into account that someone's highly stressed and they don't actually take in everything that you're saying. And a client will latch onto one particular thing and have this hope in their mind, but it might not be rational as well. And so there's a whole lot more as well about how the lawyer can even manage the case and the client expectation. You don't want someone to be promising the world just to get your matter as well.
Yeah.
Almost like, some real estate agents will promise a really high price to get your sale, but it's whether they can get it or not. Well, same thing applies for a lawyer.
I think there's a lot of integrity that needs to be had here, both on the legal side and on the consumer side.
Yes.
And the expectations of both sides has to be realistic.
That's right. And that's part of the education as well. Yeah. Like, you can't expect a lawyer to have a magic wand. We work in a system that is not working well anyway. So we're going to try our best. Most of us are in the law because we do want to help people. But the realities is that you still have third parties you've got to deal with. You still have another solicitor who you have to deal with. You have the other party. You can't control all that much. But your solicitor's also not supposed to be your cheerleader. Your solicitor is supposed to be giving you professional advice and guidance. They can pull you up and tell you, no, that's not the way we should go. You can instruct them against their advice, but they're not there just to be a mouthpiece for you. They're there to actually use their brain and achieve something for you too.
Give you guidance, but also on the side of the consumer has to understand that, okay, you have the legal system which has the laws that they have to abide by to start with, and some of them really need to be changed. And we won't even go there.
No.
But it's really interesting to have this conversation with you, Jacqui, because you are someone who's setting a precedent to give the consumer the opportunity to take control of something that they feel emotionally, financially, and anything else that you want to say there, just to get a result that is maybe equal. It might be equal. It might not be. It might be, a little less than whatever, but a reasonable result for what they're asking for. So with your programs and everything like that, and you said you have them, you're still setting things up, and it's a work in progress all the time, because what you'll do is you'll provide all this information to people, but it can be tweaked. It's a work in progress. It can be tweaked at any time to improve as things change. And as people change, they need to up their skills or up their knowledge so that they understand the education that you are providing for them. But this is a valuable side of I say the legal system, particularly for women, to understand that they can take control of the issues that they have in their life and remove that emotion, but really be educated to understand this is how it works. This is what I need to do. This is who I need to ask. This is where I need to go to get what I want to solve the situation.
Yeah. And while the first course I've built is the How to Find and Hire Your Right Lawyer, it seems like the logical place to start. In fact, the more empowering thing for women overall will be giving them permission to take responsibility and keep control, because we are conditioned in many ways to hand over responsibility to authority and to keep others happy. And that often leaves us letting go of our legal rights, because we either want things over and done with, or we don't want to cause a problem for anyone else. So all of these things we need to start subtly challenging as well, to even start on an equal footing, because there are so many biases against women already when engaging in the legal industry. How we communicate is different. We're not given credibility, all sorts of things, even from a starting point. So there's going to be a whole lot of subtle changes and things that will happen as well when women engage with legally wise women.
Fantastic. I'm excited. I'm excited to actually be learning and gaining this information and sharing it so that people can then come and find you. And how do they find you, Jacqui?
Well, I'm everywhere. Lucky there's no other Jacqui Braumans in the world. So you can Google me easily. Legallywisewomen.com.au exists. So the site is there. There's a whole lot of videos and blogs on that site as well. So it's a good place to start. Through that site, you then have a link through to the free community part of my platform already. So that's ready to go for people who do want to jump into the free section already. The course that I've been talking about, I opened for a brief time, but it's closed at the moment. But for those who jump into the free section, you know, you're there with a whole lot of resources already, and you're primed, ready for when I reopen any of these paid sections that are coming.
Yeah, great. So thank you so much for your time. And the information is absolutely brilliant and really necessary for us as consumers to understand. So appreciate it and look forward to seeing all the education processes and procedures and the programs and things that you are going to be running throughout 2021 and there onwards for women who need legal services, and to be educated to do a lot of it themselves, so that when they go in, they know exactly the questions to ask, what to do, where to go, and how to hire a lawyer.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the change that it should create. And, you know, I think it's the right time. So.
And you will be creating I think it's creating an awareness which needs to happen within the legal system for the changes to be made. So congratulations, and thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you. This was fun, Faye.
I'm Faye Waterman. This is Talking All Things Business, and I'll be back again soon. Bye for now.